Throughout a person's life, there are moments when we face the fragility between life and death. But have you ever wondered what happens if we truly step beyond that boundary? Today, I will tell you a story about the miraculous and emotional near-death experience of a woman named Jane Thompson. This is not just a story of pain, loss, or fear, but a journey of discovering the strength of the soul and unconditional love. A story that takes us through the extremes of suffering, the heights of transcendence. Jane Thompson was an ordinary woman, unnoticed by most people. She lived a simple life with family duties and everyday worries like anyone else. But everything changed on that fateful day, August 22, 2008, when Jane faced death in a way no one could imagine. At 34, after experiencing a fierce fever and indescribable pain, Jane was taken to the hospital. And it was there, in what seemed like the end, Jane embarked on an unexpected journey. A journey into the afterlife, where she uncovered the profound secrets of the universe and the human soul. From the very first moments, Jane's story grips the heart. The fever struck suddenly in the early morning, with pain spreading throughout her body like sharp blades cutting deep into every cell. With her last remaining strength, Jane managed to lift the phone and call her family for help. In a daze, she was rushed to the hospital, where doctors immediately began tests. It was there, during those critical moments, that Jane's body could no longer endure. Lying on the cold hospital bed, Jane gradually lost consciousness. Exhausted and in pain, she felt she couldn't bear it any longer. But at the very moment she believed life was slipping away, something miraculous happened. She felt herself starting to detach from her body as if her entire soul was freed from the physical pain. Jane no longer felt the agony. She was no longer a fragile human imprisoned in weak flesh. She had become a free entity, hovering and observing everything from a new perspective. In those moments, Jane could see herself from above. She saw her body lying motionless on the hospital bed, with nurses and doctors frantically moving around, trying to save her. But what astonished her the most were the small, white, glowing orbs surrounding her. These orbs were not just ordinary lights. They were the souls of everyone in the hospital, each one connected by a faintly glowing thread. It was a sign of the connection, the unity of all life on this earth. And it was then that Jane realized she no longer belonged to the material world. Jane's journey didn't stop there. Like a speeding roller coaster, she was drawn into a dark tunnel, feeling as though she was descending down an endless path. But strangely, instead of feeling anxious or scared, Jane felt excited. She was curious about where this path would lead her. As the light at the end of the tunnel began to appear, Jane sensed something far greater than anything she had ever experienced. She stepped into a space filled with pure white light, a place where all worries, pain, and fear melted away. And it was here that Jane had an experience she would carry with her the rest of her life. A brilliant light surrounded her, and with that light came an overwhelming love, a love unlike anything she had ever felt before. That love had no bound. There was no judgment, no conditions. It was absolute acceptance, protection, and complete love for Jane. Regardless of how many mistakes she had made, regardless of how much pain she had endured in life, that light loved her unconditionally. This feeling was unlike anything Jane had ever experienced in life. She remembered the moment her daughter was born, the moment she felt love in the eyes of a newborn. But even that love couldn't compare to the love from the light she was immersed in. Jane understood that she wasn't just a separate individual. She was part of this light, this love, and it wasn't just her. Every soul was a part of this infinite light and love. But Jane's journey didn't last forever. Though she wanted to stay in the light forever, a gentle yet firm voice told her she had to return. Jane resisted, begged to stay longer, but she knew she had no choice. She began to feel herself being pulled back through the tunnel, back to the real world. And in an instant, she felt herself returning to her body, the pain resurfacing as Jane sank into darkness once again. After Jane returned from her initial moment of transition, she realized she had escaped ordinary reality. But what she experienced next was truly a miraculous and surprising journey. Jane no longer felt pain or fear. She was in another world. A world without pain, without limits, and without loneliness. Here, she became aware that she was about to step through a new door, opening up horizons far beyond what she had ever known about life. As the white light around her grew brighter, Jane felt herself being drawn into a strange current, unlike anything she had ever experienced before. It was not the feeling of being pulled or forced, but an absolute freedom, as if she were floating in a sea of light. In that moment, a voice echoed, a gentle but powerful voice, as if it was not merely a sound but the expression of an entire being. Jane couldn't identify who the voice belonged to, but it radiated love and care, and she knew it was something she could completely trust. The voice told Jane that she was not alone. Not only was she there, but millions, perhaps billions, of other souls coexisted in this infinite space. These souls did not have specific forms. Jane could sense their presence through the waves of energy that filled the space. Each soul radiated its own light. Strangely, all those lights blended into one inseparable whole. "We are all one," the voice whispered. Jane immediately understood. She realized that all living creatures, humans to other beings, were closely connected in an invisible but powerful network. All of us, no matter where we are or in what circumstances, are part of a unified whole. The separation that people often feel daily between individuals, between people and the world, is in fact just an illusion. In this world of light, there was no separation, no loneliness. Jane realized that she was always surrounded by love and connection, even in the darkest moments of life. When she understood this, Jane felt a wave of peace wash over her body. She recalled moments in her life when she had felt lost and alone, those times when she believed she was fighting the world alone with no one by her side. But now she realized that was a misunderstanding. The loneliness she had experienced was merely a reflection of the barriers she had built around herself. In reality, she had never truly been alone. Then, as if by magic, Jane sensed the presence of those she had loved during her life. Not in the physical way she had known, but through a spiritual connection. She felt her mother's soul, who had passed away when Jane was very young. She could feel her mother's love for her, a love that Jane had longed for throughout the years. All the pain, loss, and sorrow from her past suddenly melted away like mist dissolving under the sun. At that moment, Jane understood that everything she had gone through, all the hardships, pain, and challenges, was part of a greater plan. Everything that happened in her life was not random or meaningless, but a part of her journey to learn and grow. Jane realized that we all have a purpose when we come into this world, and that purpose is to learn how to love and connect with one another. As Jane continued to explore this space of light, she saw a large door radiating a brilliant light in the distance. She knew that this door led to a higher level of existence, a place where souls who had completed their journey of learning would go. Jane felt an urge to move towards the door, step through it, and explore the deeper mysteries of the universe. But that voice, the voice that had guided her from the start, spoke again. "Not yet," the voice said, gentle but firm, as if there was a very important reason Jane could not yet understand. She felt a struggle rising within her. She had found peace and absolute love here. Why would she have to return to the real world, full of suffering and hardship? But the voice repeated, this time with a clear message. "You still have a mission to complete." Jane did not fully understand what that mission was, but she knew she had to return. She had to go back to her physical body, even though her heart longed to stay in the light forever. And then she felt herself being drawn backward, as if an invisible current was pulling her back to reality. Jane began to feel the presence of her body once again. Pain, the discomfort, all the physical sensations she had forgotten since entering the light now returned. But strangely, even though she felt the pain, Jane was no longer afraid. Then, suddenly, Jane felt herself being pushed back through the door of light and into her body. The brilliant white light gradually faded, replaced by the darkness of the hospital, with the sounds of machines buzzing and the voices of doctors and nurses trying to save her. Jane knew she had returned, but she also knew that she had been changed forever. As Jane gradually regained consciousness, she felt every physical sensation returning to her body. The overwhelming pain from the high fever and the exhaustion of her physical state quickly surged back, but this time everything felt different. She no longer felt fear or confusion, instead a deep peace. Her mind, Jane understood that even though the pain was still present in her body, her soul had transcended those limits. She had experienced a miracle, and that experience had changed her forever. After many hours in a semi-conscious state, Jane opened her eyes and saw the familiar faces of her family. Their eyes were filled with worry, fear, and helplessness in the face of her condition. But Jane no longer cared. She wanted to speak to them, to convey everything she had learned from her journey into the light. But her body was still too weak, and no words could come out of her mouth. All Jane could do was feel their presence and know that she had returned to this world for a significant reason. She soon learned from the doctor that she had suffered a severe infection caused by a kidney stone lodged in her ureter. The blockage had caused toxins from her kidney to flow back into her bloodstream, leading to an infection of her internal organs. Jane had gone into septic shock, a life-threatening condition that had brought her to the brink of death. If she hadn't been treated in time, she might never have returned from that miraculous journey. After recovering and spending many days in the hospital, Jane realized that what she had experienced was not just a dream or hallucination. It was a real journey, a journey where she had uncovered the profound mysteries of the universe and gained a deeper understanding of the nature of life and death. From that point forward, Jane no longer feared death as she had before. Instead, she knew that death was simply the next step in the evolution of the soul. One of the most important lessons Jane learned from this experience was the true meaning of unconditional love. When living in the physical world, people often think that love must be exchanged, must come with condition, must be accompanied by responsibility or commitments. But when Jane entered the world of light, she realized that true love has no limits or condition. That love doesn't depend on our actions or words. It exists eternally, surrounding us in every moment of life. All the mistakes, failures, or pain we have ever experienced dissolve in the infinite forgiveness and love of the light. Another thing Jane realized was that this life is just one part of a larger journey. While we live on this earth, we are often caught up in worries, fears, and daily pressures. We always strive to achieve something, always feeling inadequate, never perfect. But after her experience, Jane understood that life is not about achieving everything or becoming perfect. True purpose of life is to learn, grow, and love. Every challenge, every pain, every moment of loss is an important lesson to help our souls develop. Jane also gained a deeper understanding of the importance of healing. While she was in the light, all the wounds of her soul, painful memories, and the anger she had carried throughout her life seemed to disappear. She realized that healing is not just about the body, but also about the soul. It's about facing the pains of the past, understanding and forgiving both ourselves and others. Only when we heal the wounds within can we live a complete and peaceful. But the greatest lesson Jane learned was acceptance. We cannot control everything in life, cannot avoid hardships or pain, but what we can do is accept them, face them bravely, and understand that they are all part of the journey. Jane realized that even in the darkest moments, we are always surrounded by love and light. We are never alone, and every challenge we face has a greater purpose. When Jane left the hospital and returned to her everyday life, she was no longer the woman she had been before. She carried within her a peace and deep understanding of life. She was no longer obsessed with the trivial worries of daily life or the pressure to achieve something. Instead, she lived each day with gratitude, love, and appreciation every moment. Jane knew she had been given a second chance at life, and she was determined to live meaningfully and fully, never before. Although Jane could never fully describe what she had experienced, she knew that the near-death experience had changed her forever. She had gained a clearer understanding of the nature of life and death, and that helped her find peace in every circumstance of life. Jane had learned that we don't need to fear death because it is merely a door opening to something greater, and that this life, with all its ups and downs, has its own unique meaning.